Hi, everybody. Welcome, far and wide. Bezrat Hashem. Purim. So soon. Wow. Lately, I don't need Purim to remind me it's Purim in a sense. Like every day, every one-on-one connection with a woman, like I'm in the mode of Purim, and I'll explain why after this class. Most of us do know the amazing story, but just I want to review some of the things that we can point to and focus on even more this year, and be so thankful. Imagine, Haman so much wanted to get rid of us that he was willing to pay so many thousands of dollars, to eradicate and kill us Jews. So, especially having that total miracle turn around the way it did in such a natural way, reestablishes in our life, like, I fear no evil, period. Like, things can really turn around in a very natural way, like without you having to chase it. So, we also know that, Esther, did not want to be at the king's palace. She did everything to avoid that option of being in that place. She did not get all dressed up. She did not bathe herself and perfume herself and ready herself for a year. Actually, she hid. And you can tell because there was like a 6 or 7 year period as he was interviewing all these new women. And so she hid and got to the last of the years, like the last year of being found to go be at the king's palace. And every step of the way, she didn't even give her nationality because she was trying to give the king a suspicion. Oh, you're from like a lowly place, so that's why you don't want to say your name and where you're from. I don't want anything to do with a lowly person. So she even made herself look super lowly by hiding where she came from, thinking that will be her an option of rescue that would come her way from doing that. And really, there's a lot of questions in the Megillah, but this class, what we're going to focus on is like the idea of her marrying a goy. Like, what is that? We know in the Torah it says that, there's like 3 sins that if you are faced with, bow down to an idol, and, in the public way, you are to put your life at risk and die instead of bowing down to an idol. Now, there's many mitzvahs like, desecrate one Shabbos, you can have 1,000 Shabboses, Normally, God wants you to save your life first and foremost. But in these 3 areas, adultery, right, and also bloodshed, that you're supposed to be willing to die. And so Esther, she's taken to this palace and is marrying a goy. And there are Mefarshim says that she was married. So it could be considered adultery. And so in this book, Purim revealed the inside story of Megillas Esther. This is by Naftali Winter. It brings out this point. One, that if you look at the whole scenario, one, she did everything possible to avoid such a position. And you look at even the sentence, it says, so it came to pass when many maidens were gathered together into Shushan, that Esther was taken into the king's house. And we look at the way the sentence structure says that the other maidens came and they adorned themselves and they all kind of worked on trying to win this contest. But Esther was taken. The Targum actually adds that she was taken forcibly. It wasn't like, oh, okay, you're so beautiful. Okay. She really fought against it. And the Agada actually explains that Esther hid herself until she was eventually found by the king's messengers, and she was brought to the court of the king against her will. And this is substantiated by the fact that Vashti's downfall occurred in the 3rd year of Ahasuerus' reign, and Esther was taken on the 7th year. So there was many years that he was interviewing and looking for the best. So we see that she was taken in the 7th. That shows that she was not available running to the king's court. The other thing that is pointed out here, besides the fact that she refused to say her lineage, hoping that the lower class would repel him and wanting her, but it says here that Rabbi Yochanan says, as we know, when a person is asked to worship an idol in front of everyone, it's in the face of God. So I'm going to show you, you're not going to believe in your God. I'm going to so scare you, and you're going to bow down. And everyone's going to see that you're so scared you don't really believe in God. And so you're supposed to say, no, I don't care, take my life. Because it's such a public Chilul Hashem. So it seems like this is also like a public Chilul Hashem, because here she is, and it's a public thing. But the difference between, let's say, a wicked king saying, I want you to bow down, or I want you to kill to show that you're not a Jew, is one thing. And Esther going into the palace is a different thing. It wasn't like I want you to marry me because I want to show you're going to commit adultery to everyone. Or I want you to show how it's okay to marry a goy. You just wanted her because she was beautiful. So it had nothing to do with proving our religion wrong. Right. So in this regard, the Rabbi Yochanan differentiates the difference of situation. One is the king is asking to prove to the world that God means nothing. Another is, I like you, I love you, I love your look, or whatever, I want to marry you. And I'm the king and you have to. So even though this was public knowledge, it was that she was, one, passive, and it wasn't for the purpose of transgressing the laws of the Torah. It wasn't a public thing. And so in this way, a Jew doesn't have to give up his life. She didn't commit adultery. There are Mefarshim that say that she had like a double, but it wasn't really her. So that she really didn't, but it would look to all others that it was. There are Mefarshim that say they're cousins and that they weren't married, but Mordechai and Esther, yeah. 70 facets of the Torah, and one of them is that so of course she didn't have an intention, to transgress the commandment and not care that that would be the case. It was really for the sake of saving the Jews. That's why she did it. That was her sole intent, that maybe she'll be in this palace and then she's going to be able to save the Jewish people. That was the only reason. And it's so different than, I don't care about God's law, She was passive, but her mission was to save the Jews. Right, she was passive in not trying to get appointed, but once she was nearing that stage, she realized that I'm going to have to accept this position, and it's going to be for some, reason down the road that I'm going to be able to save the Jewish people. So it brings the story of Yael. Remember what she did during the time with Sisera, who was the commander-in-chief and wanted to annihilate the Jewish people, and they were roaring. And so she actually drew him, not very modestly, into her tent and, did what she did to be able to kill him so that then it would be saving the Jewish people. So, and Devorah HaNeviah praised her for doing such a thing. I mean, it doesn't, feel kosher, dressing seductively and drawing him into her tent and who knows what else, and then giving him wine and cheese, and then he falls asleep, and then she killed him. So she did that for the sole sake of saving the Jewish people. So we see when there's an intention for something so holy, it's not in the same category as, the three things that you should be willing to die for. And when you think about it, how could she sacrifice herself in this way? Oh my gosh. Poor Esther. And, so when I think this, her whole story, and I hear so many stories, oh my gosh, of, relationships, the husband is this and the husband is that, and it's difficult, it's so hard, it's like 24/7, and then on top of that, the children that kind of sometimes, make it even more complicated because the husband wants his way and he might be too gordic and too impatient and everything else on top, and it just hurts her to see her children have to go through such strictness and such harshness. And I think of Esther. And I think of what she went through in this palace. I know. And the loneliness and the everything on top. I said, she's our role model. She did this to save the Jewish people. Where can we pull that strength from her to do what we need to do, the Mesiris Nefesh, to save our people? Because when we save the life of our child, when we save the life of our husband, because who's going to bring them to the path of Torah? Who's going to be their cheerleader, but for the mother of her children and but for the wife, the wise wife, for her husband? And just like a child is so difficult and tantrum and so challenging, and she puts up with it because she has such Mesiris Nefesh to raise her children. Can we slide it over and let it spill over to that kind of self-sacrifice for the sake of elevating our men? And it's nothing like Ahasuerus and having to deal with Haman. She's empowering us today. Look what I went through to save you. What are you willing to do to save you and your whole family? I don't know. Can I just tell you that even just this past week, I just happened to randomly be different places. People I met many years ago, 10 years ago, where the marriage was really not so good. No respect, and, and it's really sad. I meet up. I think I'm going to... No, there are different ones. Some here, local here, and some there, everywhere. So this happened this week, and again and again and again. And she says their husband took the mortgage out of the house, so there's nothing left. The home is in foreclosure. No battle in court to get her anything. The husband, really brainwashed the kids against her so they don't see her. She's living a nightmare. She goes, I might end up in a shelter. I said, no, you're not going to be in a shelter. Please, no. You call me before that. But, she's okay. She was in a mansion, pool, tennis court, everything. And I remember begging her, just work on your marriage. Take classes, one-on-one, just you work on it, I'm telling you. And another one, the same week, even a worse story. And another one. And many people think, I'll leave this marriage. I'm pretty. I'm smart. I have what it takes. I'll get. And they are pretty and they are smart. But 10 years later, it's not so peachy keen like they thought. If they got divorced, they would end up being free and having a new life. This is a message we have to give to all us, our children, our sisters, our friends, ourselves. You know, how much we can tolerate even the most challenging of circumstances. And so we see, you know, that in the Megillah, the miracles that happened to her. Step by step, like she did her part. She said, I'm going to do this Mr. Nefesh. I'm going to go. I'm going to do this to save the Jewish people. And voila. Saved. Beyond the way everything fell into place. Oh my gosh, if you read this book, you can't almost stop reading it because it was like almost like it's like for real. This is not, you know, one of those novels. Yeah, it's Purim Revealed, the inside story of Megillas Esther, and how I'll just mention some of the stuff that is written here that's so fascinating. Regarding all the intricate parts to this story that Midrashim and Agadas explain behind what was happening. So we see, first of all, that in the pasuk it says, first of all, why did Mordechai endanger himself and all of his people by disobeying the king's order to bow down to Haman? So we know that Haman actually was wearing an idol. And nobody knew that he was really wearing an idol, but he exposed this to show, to at least bow down. Nobody knows, but bow to me. But he knew there was an idol. So even though it wasn't, again, a public, manifestation of his defying God, he still did not do it, and he risked his life. He could have been killed. Because he would have kissed the soles of Haman's feet if he knew he could save Israel. But he did it for God's honor. Because he didn't want Haman to have the even millisecond of exalted feelings of being above God. So he really did it because he wanted to honor Hashem. And even though it was like a private moment, but it was between him and Hashem that he so much wanted to honor. And he had a prayer. And so the same way that Mordechai, had this personal prayer, like that I want to just give you this moment, Hashem, and give you honor, and he could have. It would have been justifiable to bow down because nobody knew that he was wearing the idol, and he could have, did it, but he didn't. And also Esther herself. She had no pleasure in being in a high position. Imagine, President of the United States, wife. She didn't like her crown. She only wore her crown in prescribed occasions, only when she had no choice. She did not get involved in the king's feast or drinks. So we understand that between the lines, that basically Esther was really crying loudly and bitterly, I don't like this position. Please get me out of here, as it were. And we know that she, 3 days, was praying and having supplication, and even though that it was going to make her look ugly and weak, then that could have even caused more the king not to, find favor in her eyes. But she did that. This is how much she sacrificed her life. And because of her, everything happened. And in the beginning, when Ahasuerus saw her standing there at the entrance, he was enraged, and he was going to kill her. And so Esther, realizing this predicament, she just falls to the ground in such a fright. And then Hashem made a miracle that this would change his attitude suddenly. And then he catches her, and he becomes more endeared to her. And then he comforts her and says, don't worry, no harm shall befall you. And Esther is saved. I mean, a huge miracle. He was enraged. I mean, and then it continues on. I'm jumping a little bit. Oh my gosh, the whole book. And it says here, the next miracle was that at that night, remember when he was unable to sleep, it says that night was a Seder night. And that was the night the firstborn of the Egyptians died. And that was the night of Geulah. So the Targum actually explains that the word king is an allusion to Hashem. So the king couldn't sleep because he was all happy that, the redemption and all what was going on. So he felt more aroused to really be more a participant in this, making sure this miracle was going to happen. And at the time, not only that, Mordecai couldn't sleep either. Why? Because all the Jews were against him. A lot of the Jews actually were against him, maybe not all, sorry, but because they accused him of being the cause of his misfortune. You didn't bow down to Haman. Why didn't you bow? Look what's happening. Look, we're going to have this decree against us. So he couldn't sleep because he was like, what do I do? Thinking it through. So, so then Haman couldn't sleep also that night. Why? Because he was busy preparing the gallows, little knowing that in fact he was preparing it for himself. And Esther couldn't sleep that night because had, let's say, Haman been able to sleep, he wouldn't have been there. And had Mordecai not been able to sleep, it was just everything was orchestrated. So Esther wasn't able to sleep. Why? Because she was preparing for the next day's banquet. And then Ahasuerus, the true Ahasuerus, didn't sleep because there were many explanations. One of them was, wait a minute, Esther's making a banquet and she's inviting Haman? He started getting jealous and suspicious, and he couldn't sleep. What is this? Are they going to try to get me out of this royal position I'm in? Because what happened was the angel Michael actually came to disturb the king's sleep, and he sat above Ahasuerus' head. So Ahasuerus called for the book of special deeds to read to him. And then all of a sudden there was a man there, the angel, reading all this information that and giving him ideas. Haman wants to plot against you. Haman wants to kill you. And so he started getting nervous and really annoyed and wasn't able to sleep. And then when Haman came and then said that he wants to kill the man that saved his life, he got even more enraged and very upset. And it says here that there were so many, Haman kept begging Mordecai, please, please, let me not do this. Let me not take Mordecai, to the streets, because when he was asked, I want to honor the person that saved my life. And Haman was thinking it was going to be him. And he said, and Haman says, oh, take him on the streets with the royal garments, with the crown. So when he said that, Ahasuerus got even more suspicious. Oh, you think I want to honor you, and you think you want to strut around like the king? You're trying to usurp my position? So he got even more mad at Haman. Every step of the way, God made Haman belittled in the eyes of Ahasuerus, and Ahasuerus more hating him and more suspicious. So he really thought that that's it. He's trying to usurp me. And every time Haman kept begging him, no, not Mordecai. He said, I'll pay thousands of golden dinars or whatever it was. In addition, he said he would do this and do that. Anything but that. And again, the more he tried to convince him not to honor Mordecai, the more he felt this is an enemy. He wants the position. And that was setting the stage. So when Esther just said, Haman, it was so easy for him to say, get him to the gallows. Because if it wasn't all these things leading up, then he would have said, wait, I don't know, let me think about it. But it was boiling over. And so this whole journey, this whole situational moment in this Megillah is just a miracle. And it's in the nature, like the way it happened, and it wasn't like, Kriyat Yamsuf, and it wasn't, brimstones and hail. It's happening on its own. And that's the miracles that we're going to expect in our life by following Esther's lead. We will see the miracles. So I bless you all. Erase the Haman's name. I want to thank Torah Anytime for getting us here together and making this available. And I thank you, rain or shine, snow, we're all here together. But thank God it's shining. What a beautiful view here. Oh, my gosh. And we should just be the simcha. With a lot of simcha, we should see a lot of miracles. So let's just focus on where we want our miracles. In what particular part of our life that we're willing to go the extra mile a little bit, and it might be a little struggle and a little challenge and a little not so easy and a little queasy, but we know that this extra effort, because, we're getting this incredible power right now from Esther. It's like Purim. That's like Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur is like Purim. Kippur, like Purim. So Purim is higher than even Yom Kippur. And Purim is going to stay with us when Mashiach comes. It's like the holiday that we'll always celebrate Purim. So I am thinking a little more Mistress Nefesh. Where? What? How? Think about it in your own life. Maybe sometimes it's in-laws. Oh my gosh, how many stories with the in-laws problems? No, she's not coming over. Yes, that's it. Have them over. Mistress Nefesh, and who knows what miracles will come your way in that regard. I don't know, think about it in your life. Where, what, how? Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it's a headache. Yes, you don't want to deal with it, but maybe Esther to the rescue, giving us the strength. Okay, my dear. See the miracles unfolding. See yourself going the extra mile. See the vision right now. Doing it. Just do it. And happily. With it. Queen Esther, royal dignity about you. Okay, my dear soul sisters. We are getting the miracles. Mwah. Happy Purim. By the way, I have that